panel is designed to discuss the latest innovative HR solutions and the adaptation in the aviation world. This panel will run until 3 p.m. and afterwards you're still welcome to join our AirTech and Commercial Aviation Forum. The two panels will be running here just on the right from us. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker of today and start the panel. I will invite Ms. Indra Švaistrytė, the owner of Spread Your Wings company. The last 13 years spent in the development and management of startup businesses have been an inspiring work experience for Ms. Švaistrytė. Her startup business, Initia Pilot Academy, proved to be a great success since the very beginning. So, Indra's passion is HR management consultancy, and she's mostly specializing in assessments and competence models implementation. Using various tools and methodologies, she has assessed more than 2,500 specialists and managers from various fields, including aviation professionals. Today, Ms. Indra will be speaking about pilot psychological assessment on the cusp of EU Commission regulation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Indra Švaistrytė.
I felt a little bit uncomfortable when you were reading my presentation. It's easy to write on the paper, but when somebody is reading about you, it's like, Dear ladies and gentlemen, guests, organizers, friends, colleagues, ex-colleagues, partners and clients, I see so many faces that I already met somewhere, and I can admit that aviation is a really small word. And as I say, you can do mistake only once, and you can get friends forever. So that's nice to share the knowledge and the experience, and something maybe will be as a old rules for some of you. Maybe some of you will find some interesting ideas for your business. Maybe some of you will have some questions, and I will be really open to share and speak and meet after the presentation with you. Doesn't work. On. Thank you. Spread your wings. Usually I get a question from people, they ask me what I do for a living. And I say I spread the wings for people and companies. Oh, you are selling Red Bull? You are working for that company? I say, no. Are you related to drugs? I say, no, I work in aviation. That's an industry with wings and people who work there. Spread Your Wings is the company for people in aviation. Usually when we have huge hall of wings, when we have huge companies and representatives in the meetings like that, we speak about aircrafts. Usually we speak about finances. We speak about the success of the business. And to be sorry, usually the panels, when we speak about the people, are not that popular. Thank you so much coming there. It makes me believe that we start the aviation business starting from people. My office is located in Vilnius, and most of my clients are out of the country. And that's a good thing that we can travel. Working in the aviation, we become quite close to each other, even if we sit in the different countries. The main goal of Spread Your Wings is to be a translator, to be honest. Sometimes I have to translate aviation psychology information to the human science and make it really understandable and converting to the business language. Because usually I see that we speak different language inside the company, and when we have some issues to decide, we have separate people who have to make each of them different jobs. So my main goal is to be a translator, to find the reason to invest into the people, not having the costs, but making more efficient processes. Having the aviation experience in the past, and in the other hand, before starting in the flight training business, I was working in HR field. So that helps me to find the solutions that could work both for the airlines and for the schools. And most important for myself, those solutions should work for people who fly. If we speak today about the pilot psychometric assessment, sometimes we forget that this is a person who stands behind all the tribulation. This is a person who is involved in the operation. This is a person that really makes a job. How many of you came from different countries today? So you came by airplanes, trains, cars? Usually we even forget that somebody is in front. We just concentrate on our business trip, we concentrate on our hotel that we did a booking, we concentrate on our presentations or our business meeting topics, but somebody is just driving us from A to B. Do you recognize that sign in this slide? Do we have any pilots there in the room? Do you know how much does it cost? It costs quite, I can remember from my FTO times. Every time it's paying, when you see it's quite okay from my side when I'm not an engineer, but only the small scratch could make a huge problem. Please take a seat, we have still some chairs here in front. Come in. So, making a common language between flight schools, training organizations, airlines, and people, I would believe that we could have much more easy life for the recruitment people who have to care about the certain number of the pilots, certain costs in the Excel sheet, and certain flight hours after the season. Is there people in the room who had done startups, opening the airlines, opening the flight schools, opening the maintenance organizations? Do you know what means key people? When you go to aviation authorities, they ask you first, who are your key people? Who are the ones that sign the papers? It's always a headache when you start the business. Let's say you have budget for startup. You have strategy how you grow the business, but finances are not enough at the beginning. You have to have somebody who will care from the perspective of controlling the business and ensuring with the knowledge. So at the beginning, those are called key people. What happens afterwards when we start the business? Who are the key people? Shareholders sitting in the top floor, top management who are making decisions. Who are the key people when we run and grow the business? I had quite many flashbacks studying flight safety and human factor the last years. And I get to myself the question, if I would knew so much theoretical principles, how human factor could really impact the safety, I would not be so happy anymore having such a friendly team in my flight training organization these days. Usually the human mistakes are made with, yes, I do, people profile. Those are really friendly. They always say, if you need, I will help you. I can fly more. I can maintain faster. We can organize as flexible as possible. Those are the people that recruitment people are looking for these days, are not? We complain about the ones who refuse to fly. We complain about the ones that they say no, but usually no is the one way to stop and think, are we capable to be sure about the safety?
It's about money.
Yes.
They say no just because no money.
There is one of the reasons to say no because I'm afraid to lose the job. I want to be friendly, supportive. That's the traits that organizations, not only aviation, are looking for. Sometimes people say no because they don't think that they can. They say yes because they don't think that they can say yes. Sometimes they just like be friendly. There are kind of many people that they say, yes, I will help you just to be nice, even if organization doesn't look for that. We speak a lot about the company culture. We speak a lot about the values. But finally, those people who are key people from the administration point of view, those have to have really strong muscles, to be honest. When we grow business so fast, when we have so many opportunities, as Gediminas told us at the first panel, we just have a lot of options how to make that business safe from both financial and aviation part of view. Human element is involved in most of the accidents, and this is the most common slide in most of the HR-related aviation conferences. Can we open the door to invite the people? Organizers, please. We say that 75% of the aviation accidents are related with the human factor. The numbers are even higher if we speak about the ground transport. And those are statistics when we speak about the direct impact of pilot or driver. But if we go more deeper to the business, even machines are built by humans. IT programs are developed by humans. Even the weather forecast is printed or prepared by humans. So we could say that most of accidents are related with the human factor. If I'm the company owner and I decide how fast we will grow, I'm 100% responsible. Don't I? My decisions will be placed down to people who make a decision how we can implement my ideas, how we can make that money working and have successful business in the future. Human factors, in my experience, usually is the subject for two divisions in the airlines. Human factor and safety. This is a headache for human factor specialists and for safety people in the company. When we meet at the same meetings, the top management, they say, can I come later? This is kind of operational meeting. Do you have some ideas that I just need to prove? In my dream world would be those key people really well trained and having a clear picture what I had the human factor when we speak about the transport that really flies. It's not so easy to change the decisions when aircraft is up, but quite many people in the board. When we speak about the people who make mistakes, usually they are system mistakes. Let's remember the German Wings accident that is the one main reason for the regulation that we have now. We are not surprised that after the investigation, so many people had an idea about the pilot who was suicided during the flight, that he had some problems. There were quite many people who admit that, yes, I find some strange behaviors. But once we don't feel responsible for each other and once we don't have a culture, still it happens. Let's go to the regulation that we have already. Now, I still hear the rumors that it's coming, it's here, to be honest. The German Wings opinion created in 2016 was promising us that we will have the regulation, and it's already 1 year old. And it says that airlines must assess psychological attributes of the pilots. And it's not that general because it's absolutely clearly written that we have to test cognitive abilities, personality traits, operational and professional competencies, and social competencies that are related with the crew resource management. Of course, there are airlines who have a lot of assessment stages with a lot of tools. There are still airlines who make all the assessment in the simulator, but still there are airlines who have the assessment just by call. When I meet the airlines and flight schools, usually I find top 10 requirements for the airline pilots. Starting from time sharing, motor control, cooperation, communication, and all the skills that you guys usually have on the desk when you meet and assess pilots. And most common practice is to have like three models, 3 parts, how we can assess these competencies. One big group we call cognitive abilities, usually are related with the aptitudes. It's quite often to have some online tests, in-class tests. We try to be sure about pilot cognitive abilities. The other pool is personality, that most popular. It's assessed again with tests and the interviews. Some of the parts are assessed during the simulator checks. And of course, we concentrate a lot on the work-related competences that usually are left for the simulator checks. There is no recipe that suits all the airlines. There is no recipe that works for everybody. But our main thing is to be sure that we apply the same conditions for all candidates. At the last years, I became a huge fan of studying the learning curves of the candidates. If we give different chances for the pilots with the same conditions at the past, I would say they have the same flight experience, they had flying the same type of aircraft, and they take the same test I offer. Third time, one candidate is taken first time, another one had a chance to prepare himself in some consultancy agency. So they provide us absolutely different performance, and it's not surprising. Is it good to prepare? What's your idea? If I prepare, maybe I'm really motivated. That's a good thing these days. It's not me who asks again and again, can you come to our interviews? We are moving around the world, opening our offices in every country where pilots could come. Is it good to prepare by my own strategy? Is it good when we have one pilot who never heard about the test that he needs to play with the joystick, but another one, he's really traveler and shopper. He takes the same test third time. So from the learning curve perspective, those guys will perform totally different scores, even if their performance is the same. The main idea of having tests at the recruitment and assessment process is to be sure that we predict behavior that we find during the test. We want to be sure if the guy is performing really well at the test, he will perform well during the operations. And the opposite. If the guy is performing really high during the test, we hope he will perform really high during the job. But airlines have so many experience when it doesn't happen. And then we deal with a bad experience. And there are 2 options, or even 3. Option number 1 is to have really high standard. What does it mean? Let's make a really high pass rate, so we assure that poor performers will never get in. but we need a number of pilots, you will tell me. We need a number of candidates for the flight schools. We need a number of cadets. So it means we really have to agree that we have high positive false. Option number 2. Let's make lower standard. Let's give a chance for more pilots to pass our tests. But then we have to be sure that we will have a number of people who are not so good performers. And the option number 3 is we have to make our own norms. We have to ensure as minimum false positives and false negatives. We have to assess our current people and create our own norms. As I always say to the airlines, you are creating the standard. Industry is providing you the tests, tools that have to measure certain dimensions, certain competencies. But our job is to create the standard that works for you. There's no single airline at the industry that there's no standard. There is your standard. You know from your people who are performers in your company who is high standard pilot and who is low standard pilot. So we have to make your own norms. And last not least, I would say when we concentrate and open the papers of the regulation, that it's mentioned that we need to set up the process where tests are included, psychologist is included, all the processes are stated on the paper. There are standards and numbers that we follow. I would say our main target is to have as more good decisions. We need to minimize the poor performers in our crew. We have to get in as more good pilots that show themselves at our recruitment process. And of course, we need to seek money for value. There are a lot of offers in the market, outsourced offers, in-house offers, but every airline has the budget. We have to find some reasonable solutions. There are a lot of practices. Some airlines have 5 stages, some of them have 3 or 2. If it works 2-stage system, that's good. We need to find the system that works for you in minimum stages. We save the time for you, for candidate. The main thing, what is the outcome of the assessment stages? And of course, let's make the system flexible. If we create some papers and the processes that we cannot change, it's not working in the practice. But the main thing, flexibility has to go with the standard. If standard stands in the hand of every single person who makes the recruitment, it's not good. I think you have an experience when it depends who is interviewing you. When you apply, it really depends who will make the final decision. So knowing the experience from us as a candidates, we have to be sure that people who do the interviews, who do the screening, they have to feel the same standard. At least step by step, we have to start from that. And the last but not least, I would like to wish you, spread your own wings. If we believe what we do, it works. If we have just yearly plan, quarterly plan, we have a lot of things in our outlook, what we have to follow every day, but we don't feel our own wings, they are somewhere in the pockets, it's just a new regulation. It's just a new issue. It's just an expense and headache. But I would say for people who have their own wings and they still feel that they can do a lot of things in the company, this is a nice opportunity. This is a new point that we can follow, build the budget, have a meeting, and rethink how we can make our recruitment process, in other words. Thank you.
like to ask as well if we have any questions from the audience for Ms. Shvistrita. Thank you very much then.
Thank you.
I think we got very interesting ideas. And now next on our agenda is a panel discussion. So perhaps I would like to welcome all the participants on the stage, and I'll try to make brief introductions as well. So as I mentioned, we'll have a panel discussion now on the future aircraft engineer from the perspectives of airlines and MROs. Let me just quickly introduce the participants of this discussion. Mr. Enrique Paredes Gasmartin. He's a specialist in quality systems, delivery and redelivery of aircraft, asset management, and aviation-related training, just to mention just a few. It's a compliance monitoring manager of Swift Air. Also, we have Jonas Karalius, training manager of Ethel Techniques. Jonas Karalius' professional expertise includes aviation technical training, aircraft maintenance, and pilot training. He's an experienced professional with more than 10 years of work in the sector. Mr. Henrik Fjold, Managing Director, Aircraft Technical Operations of SAS. He's an aviation expert with broad insight into safety management, change management, restructuring, and recruitment. He started his career as production planning engineer at SES, then worked with aircraft engineering management at Norwegian for 9 years before rejoining SAS again. The last but not the least is Karolis Čepukas, CEO of Kaunas Aircraft Maintenance Services CAMS. He started his aviation career at Kaunas International Airport as sales and marketing manager. During his time in Kaunas, the airport was rewarded as the most rapidly growing airport in Europe. In 2012, Karolis established CAMS, a two-bay heavy maintenance facility with over 250 staff members. And also to moderate this panel discussion, I would like to introduce Mr. Tom Arm Norheim, Technical Director of OSM Aviation. Prior to OSM Aviation, Mr. Norheim brings many years of experience from SES in the maintenance and engineering division. He's also EASA JAR 66 licensed B1 engineer on Airbus A320 family and Boeing 737 Classic and NG, and also all engine types of those aircraft types. So please, gentlemen.
Welcome everybody, can you hear me good? Yep. We'll just take you through some quick details first before we start with the questions to the panel. OSM Aviation is in the industry, recognized as a world-leading global provider of aviation personnel, management and training. We currently have about 6,000, just below 6,000 employees divided into 19 countries. Also, we have the award-winning flight academies where we do training, airline-ready cadet programs for our flights. We have, we're going to talk about the future aircraft engineers, not limited to the licensed engineers, but also the graduate engineers, aeronautical engineers. We're going to divide the questions into kind of 3 segments. So we start with the future situation. How is the gentleman looking at the future? No, the present situation. What the challenges do we have? We're going to go into the future. How do we look at the future engineers? And we're going to have a discussion about the transition from the present to the future. And last but not least, we had questions during the last phase of, so save your questions until the end. Okay, we can start. Mr. Henrik Lepp, Managing Director of Technical Operations in Scandinavian Airlines. What is the main challenges you're facing today, leading the entire common organization of a major commercial operator?
Do you want to listen to all of them, or?
Yes, please. Make my job easier.
No, but let's focus on the topic here, HR and training. And I think, you know, going back for my sake, back to 2017, we did this huge restructure of the whole common organization. We have around 110 people. And we did a restructuring, which included a competence shift of 36%. So if you do the math, it's pretty many people. And that led to a situation which was, at that time, kind of, you know, strange, because in Scandinavia, you know, in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, you have, you know, universities specializing in aeronautical engineering. And we saw that at the time when we tried to, retain or get the people back. We saw that all the universities, they had nearly 0 aeronautical engineers available. They actually cut down on the subject, the courses in universities, so there was 0. That included, or started a new process. We had to go abroad, outside Scandinavia. And we have now, currently today, we have 14 different nationalities in common. That's a good thing, because then you have diversity, etc. But what we see is that the wage level outside Scandinavia, everybody thinks that Scandinavia is a high cost. It is. Wage-wise, it's a little bit different. Compared to abroad, say Britain or Germany, etc., the wages are much higher and lower in Scandinavia. So then we saw that we had a different challenge. In order for us to attract these people, either male or female engineers, we needed to meet the wage demand, which was difficult because in airline we have top priorities, cutting costs, etc. So the wage cost is always in the picture of, we have to minimizing the cost. So that was a new challenge for us, because we thought that up in Scandinavia everything is good, but it was not. So now we are facing different challenges towards, attracting people abroad, from Malaysia, from Europe in general, States, etc. So I would say it's a positive challenge, but it's a challenge for a company when it comes to the wages.
Do you use any alliance partner for recruiting, or is it everything contained in your organization?
Currently, we are using a Dublin-based company called Peak Performance Recruitment, and trying to, they are really good of understanding the market, and they have a lot of people in their database, CVs, etc. So we see that they have been a good partner in trying to retrieve those candidates and also do the selection bit also.
Good, nice to hear. Challenges as of today: recruiting, finding the right candidates, getting them moving up to Scandinavia. Enrique, how does Swift recruit, and how do you secure a maintenance personnel today? Is there any strategy, or is it more?
Well, I don't know if it's a strategy. Of course, we as an airline, we provide our own maintenance for our aircraft, and as an airline, provide services to customers. we are always behind the customer's demand. So every day we find that our customers do not care about the future. They of course care about the present, and they change the routes, they change the number of aircraft they need, and we have to follow immediately. Immediately means for tomorrow. So in that case, there are two different ways of facing this situation. For a change for tomorrow, we have to hire people today. And today, we need people to sign off maintenance, and we need people that are already experienced, already trained, and that can start to work tomorrow. This you cannot do unless you have already people in the market, and this is not always easy. So for emergencies, for the daily base, we recruit through manpower companies. So we go to them, we ask for what we want, they provide several solutions, and we choose the one that is most suitable for the place where we are doing the maintenance, or for the moment of the year when we are doing the maintenance, or for the duration of the contract. Not everybody is ready to change their location or to commit themselves for a few months or only for a few months. They prefer 1 year. So with this we have to play, and we of course have to trust on the manpower companies to help us in contracting. But this is for the day-to-day work. We are in a situation where the company is growing. Swiftair is growing a lot, and it's growing very fast. But we know this. We already know this since a few years, that in this year we will be trying to grow. So in fact what we did years ago, and we continue to do, is to recruit technicians, licensed mechanics from the very beginning. So fresh from the school, or even when they are still in the school. And we offer them the possibility of working with us for 1 year, 2 years, and we train them. We train them in the sense of letting them know what Swiftair is, how we work, and what we do. So that at the end of those 2 years, 1 year, depending on the student, depending on their previous studies, they already know Swiftair, we already know them, and then it's easy to know whether they want to stay or they want to leave. Normally, when they have been inside the company and they know how the business is about, they usually decide to stay. With this, we have a program to have at least 10 people every year. We have 10 people in the market that already know Swiftair. They are the first ones that we call in case they are not in Swiftair at that moment. And in this moment, there is no doubt, there is nothing to explain. We call them and say, okay, Swiftair now needs you. Do you want to come back? If they say yes, we have the same situation as for experienced manpower, but with people trained by us. So in fact, what we try to do to keep people interested in Swiftair is to show them what we do, how we do it, and then rely on them and trusting that we did so well that they want to stay.
Good question. So when you're operating 48 aircrafts, mainly out of Europe and Africa,
Right?
is there any kind of exchange between your stations, or
There is a total exchange, so people working for Swiftair can be sent to any of the outstations. We have something like 28 or 30 outstations in every moment. And these outstations change. Today we have presence in 15 countries, but maybe tomorrow we are in 2 more countries or in 2 countries less. So we send people, the policy is to send people from the main base or from other outstations to the new locations. So we exchange, and we don't really care about the nationality. We have plenty of nationalities and plenty of people who work in Swiftair in different locations.
Good, thank you. So recruiting, defining the demands, using recruitment companies,
Right?
employing the engineers on site,
Correct.
and a kind of an exchange program between Swiftair,
That's it.
trying to keep them. Carolis, representing COMS, the major MRO down in this part of the world, of Europe. 200
Second
million-
biggest.
Second biggest, which is a major player. You got some 250 employees, 2 big heavy maintenance facility, Könas, 700 checks performed on the Ryanair fleet. That's quite a great number and quite a massive achievement. How do you kind of secure that you have the right amount and the right engineers, the right individuals in your organization?
Okay, so we work in a quite extensive environment. So I guess everyone in aviation knows that this is a very difficult business, which is very stressful, let's say. So we look at certain characteristics of people what we want to employ. Recently, like a couple of years ago, we had a huge issue because we had a turnover of staff quite significant because people just were leaving. So we had a huge shift in our culture, in our understanding, and in the ideology what we actually employ. So instead of employing who actually just wants to try, we're looking for someone who is actually willing to achieve something and create the company as they see themselves. So this was implemented like 2 years ago, starting from 2018 January. All our equipment is done basically internally without any outsourced companies, what we can have locally. For the skilled people, we still need contracting agencies. But the number, because of the shift in our ideology, is decreasing rapidly. So, an example for next year, we don't need any contracting staff anymore, which is quite winning of the, how to say, or acceptance that the ideology worked for us. I can tell you more about that if you come to my presentation later on, but it will be more of a practical experience.
Yeah, because you're having a session later today about winning the desired employee. But you go locally. It's not, you're not worldwide recruiting for Lithuania.
Yes, so the model why we are in Lithuania is because, of course, the prices and the skilled workforce. When we came to Lithuania, there was actually not so much to look for, and we are already here for 8 years. We've generated a lot of government institutions, a lot of educational institutions to work on preparation of the aviation students. So we also work with the universities in order to establish Part 147 organizations. Hopefully that will generate even bigger pool of students. Just a comparison, when we established in Lithuania in 2012, there was 77 students finishing the aviation intensive studies. Now, when we are 7 years already in business, per year it's 350 around students finishing this. So even though that's a small number, but the percentage-wise is a huge win for the country as itself, I guess. So, and all the companies in the region feel the benefit of it.
Really interesting. So basically tying in with the local schools, the high schools, do you do any kind of sponsor programs or to recruit the right candidates into the schools today?
The general approach to that is that we come here, we will provide work, country needs to provide the specialists. That didn't happen. So we were involved in the creation of this, and now because we see a huge demand for aviation engineers, we are looking also at financing them. But that needs the Part 147 organizations to be established so that we can actually finance the students, which cost quite significant amount of money for that studies, and to come join us in the future.
Good, thank you. Mentioning training, Jonas, representing FL Technics Training, manager for the training segment. What kind of challenges are you seeing in your part of the industry? Like you heard this gentleman talking about recruiting and sustaining and maintaining. What is your challenges on the 147 training segment?
So as a training provider, we face a couple of challenges, one of which is a slow regulator. So the regulation is not going as fast as the industry is going, and it demands for the level of knowledge which is not reasonable anymore. Aircraft is becoming very sophisticated, and it's required an engineer to be familiar with very specific details of each system, even though in the future engineer may not actually work with it. It's going to the shop level. And at the same time, we see the customers who are very aggressively expanding their staff and enrolling students which are very young. not necessarily prepared to succeed in the course. As a approved organization, we have to be responsible in the industry, and we have to make sure that people that we issue certificates to are actually fit for purpose. And we see that more and more students fail to achieve that level of standard which is required. At the same time, it's a challenge for us to improve on our training quality, not to sacrifice it, to look for new methods of training to achieve the same level of standard. This shorter duration, which is also requested from our client.
So basically, already today you can see that the initial training, the prerequisite from the regulatory agencies is kind of not fit for the aircraft that you're training on today.
Yeah, one aspect is that the level of knowledge which is required is not necessary for actual engineer. And the other part is that, for example, in initial basic training, we have requirements for commercial aircraft engineer to be trained on wooden structures and its repairs. When new technology aircraft has composite fuselage, and industry is already identifying that it's people are not trained for this new technology, they do not know how to detect damages, what to look for, how to repair it. And what the regulator is asking us is to teach those engineers on something that they will not work on instead of working on new technology.
Interesting. So basically, from a present situation, both the training, the maintenance repair organization, the passenger carriers and the cargo, and also commercial is kind of the same challenge. Getting the personnel, we know from the pilot's side of things, it's a very high demand. Pilot training it's about 24 months. A licensed engineer is between 7 and 10 years. So the engineers that you need 10 years down the road is going to be the one you train today, which brings us to the next subject. The future, Henrik. You are this winter facing in Airbus 350s. Your fleet of today is 737, you have the 320ceos, NEOs, 30-something NEOs now, isn't it? You have the 330 enhanced, 340s, but still not the kind of technology that we see on the 350.
No, and I think innovation drives the future, and looking back to what I said was the challenges today, is that we have been a traditional compliance organization, and we have been more or less the whole industry, I would say, more or less been on what's happened or fails on the aircraft. Now we are in the presence of new technology on the 350, 320neo with the FOMAX system, and we have Skywise, some presentation in the adjacent room here about Skywise, and this drives a new competence into, especially my organization, Economy. The traditional way of descriptive maintenance. Okay, what happened when we act on that? But now we are stepping into a new future that's predictive and prescriptive. That now we need people in the sense of more analytical engineers to do analysis of the aircraft health and engine to predict when failure happens, and that creates a new competence. It will drive a new competence. So, for me, sitting in an organization, looking at new products, new aircraft coming in, and okay, how should we use the technology? But the organization is behind here. So, and that will, I would say, 5 to 10 years down the road, that will, I think, the traditional aeronautical engineer in one way would be more or less obsolete in one way. We will still have them, been in a minor scale for the legacy operators, and we will have probably more analytical engineers sitting and reading the data that the aircraft transmits down to the organization, and see, okay, what should we do, how should we do it, etc. So that creates another competence shift also. But I would say 5 to 10 years down the road, we would see a change in the competence. So that's my view on it.
That's more directly on the combo engineer side. But how do you kind of predict? How would you communicate with MROs and maintenance providers doing the base heavy maintenance up front, like?
And that's a good question. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that on the main stage at 5. But the thing is that the dialogue between the combo and the 145 is crucial. Understanding each other, understanding the situation, health, the status of the aircraft is vital. And for us, we outsource mainly all the base maintenance. We outsource FL. We have now 5 aircraft, and we do all the line maintenance internally. What we're seeing is that we in the future will share that information that we get from the aircraft. We share that directly with the 145. So the 145 is constantly involved in what's happening on the aircraft and can act thereafter, together with, of course, my engineers in the common. But that will be a close relationship. And I think also when it comes to base maintenance abroad, I use Lufthansa, FL, etc. That experience that we gain needs to be driven into the RFP process, into when we hand out all the work packages, that all that information is contained in the information, and of course back to the RFPs.
Good, thank you, Henrik. If you look at the global marketing forecast from Airbus, which is the same figures basically that Drew McGill, managing director of Boeing, presented just an hour and a half ago, Airbus predicts 26,530 new aircraft the next 20 years. That is new in addition to what we have today. We're also looking at 10,850 replacement aircraft. The segment we're talking about is the small, which Airbus calls small segment. We have the 230 passenger aircraft with a range up to 3,000 nautical miles. Every single one of them is being produced now, according to Airbus, on the new platform, like it's a composite fuselage. We have a fully electronic systems with hydraulic oil is not present. Pneumatic systems are obsolete. So it's basically, from your perspective, Enrique, how do you, down the road, say 10 years from now, you are operating 737s now, the Embraer 120, the Metro, you have, how do you look at the future?
Well, we are trying to understand what will happen in 10 years. We don't know what will happen in 10 years. On the one hand, regulation and the schools are providing more and more knowledge, and the requirements are more restrictive in terms of knowledge. Technicians have to have more and more knowledge. On the other hand, practical day, maintenance is always easier and easier. Designers are now manufacturing aircraft that are easier to maintain than years ago. So now any defect prompts out the computer, and there is 99% of the time a module to change or a component to change, and that's it. Then the machine does its test and says okay or not okay. So on the one hand, people are more and more trained, people are more and more skilled, but on the other hand, they use those skills less and less. So what will happen in 10 years? Maybe aircraft will maintain themselves. I mean, we will not need any technician, just a few. On the other hand, whenever a defect arises that is not in the computer and is not really clearly defined in the manual, then it's when we need a real knowledgeable technician, someone with deep knowledge on the aircraft who can make a decision and take action. This happens rarely or not so often, but it happens. So finally, what will happen in 10 years? Maybe we will find ourselves with a staff of 200 people. 190 of them are just technicians to change components, so with limited skills. But we will have 10 people, who will be the top of the technicians, knowing everything about the aircraft. The problem will be how to maintain this difference with 190 people working every day on simple tasks and maintaining 10 people just waiting for a big problem to arise. So, in fact, probably the regulators also have to address the situation if they ever find this in the same way as I do, and create different lines of training from the very beginning. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is every company has its own problems. Every airline is different, every MRO is different. So in fact, well, what I need from my technicians might not be the same as he needs from his. So the training, which is now delegated into organizations, independent organizations that provide the same training to everyone, the general training, maybe this has to change in the future and somehow force all the companies to provide that training in a very efficient way. Nowadays, when you look for the training, there are two different types of training. The visible one and the invisible one. The visible one is what you see during a quality audit. You ask for the training of your staff, and they show you some certificates, human factors, EWIS, health and safety, the usual ones. And this training has to be refreshed every 2 years. That means every 2 years there is a piece of paper that says that in 4 hours they have refreshed human factors, technology, health and safety, EWIS, and company procedures in 4 hours every 2 years. Is that efficient? Well, that's what the regulation says, and it's accepted, and the authorities accept it, and quality audits accept it. But there is another invisible training, the training that you do every day when working with your colleagues. And this training is invisible, there is mostly no records. So what the students or the workers learn during their daily work, this is not visible. And this will make the difference between one company and the other. So I guess the training in the future for technicians should address this invisibility of the important training and somehow get this training to be visible through procedures, through papers, through something that would make clear the difference between what I learned in one company and what I learned in another one.
Really interesting view with self-maintaining aircrafts. I'm looking forward to that, but good news.
Technology is there and
Technology is
everything
there.
is possible provided you put money inside and time.
Really good. We will be out of work, guys. Jonas, 2,500 courses conducted the past 20 years, 170 customers, which makes you a major player in the market, this part of the world. Right? How do you kind of see yourself 10 years down the road in training center?
It actually depends a lot on the where the industry is going to go, actually, and how regulator is going to adopt to those changes. Now, our training methods are mostly conventional classroom, chalk and talk methods, and Yasa keeps talking about this the future training, which is competency-based training, and it gets postponed and postponed every year. And the future of it is assessing each individually, each person individually, and the goals for each individual, and tailored training for specific individual or set of individuals to segment them. And I think that's where the main advancement is going to go. It requires a lot of automation, a lot of management of training, because there's not going to be one actual standard, and something what Enrique was talking about to prepare intermediate level engineers. So I think the future, what future has for us is to work a lot on the back office processes, on how we're going to adopt to those changes, and to offer those tailored solutions to our clients, whether it's going to be in the regulation or not, but we have to adapt to the changes, that customers may actually train it inside, or they may still subcontract it, and we need to provide this tailored training for competences needed in the market.
Good, thank you. Do you see the engineers that you have in training today, will they, without any bridging training, be capable of attending this intense, high-tech courses of the 350s, the NEO, the next generation aircraft?
I would say that with the basic training and experience they are receiving right now, those type training courses should be very long to meet the level requirements required by the type training. But the industry is asking for shorter and shorter courses. So what happens is that the quality of the course may be sacrificed, and we may not get so much into details of each system. So the course should be longer, but with the pressure, I think students find it difficult to learn native Czech.
Before we enter the transition phase, Karolis, from the 145, the maintenance repair, the workshop segment, how do you plan to prepare for the future with what the other guys has just mentioned?
So our workshops, they're speaking about workshops, not the maintenance facility.
Well,
That's-
your organization basically, in general.
Okay, because we have base maintenance and workshops as well. Yeah, just if the question would be like 10 years ago, what will be the future? Probably I would be very boring and say, well, I don't think anything will change. Because if we look in 10 years' time, yes, there is changes, but they're not significant ones. Go to our future, what I see on one of the hands, we put so much attention to engineers now. Everyone suggests to how to create more engineers, and we might lose the attention to mechanics. So actually, it's people who are performing the job, and how then we will attract them into aviation. So we need to ensure in future that we will keep attention of attracting people to aviation. So basically, not losing the love to aviation. I think that's the way. Another thing, I hope global warming will not have a significant impact on aviation. Because, this is some unknowns we are seeing, and we need to be always ready for the changes. And aviation is not a surprise. Aviation is always changing, in 1 hour, everything can change. So for me, the future is, I don't know what I will do next day. So, you cannot know what you'll do in 10 years.
Which is a good start. It's a good attitude to have. Thank you. The transition, Jonas, we can go back to you. Pass on the microphone. You've been talking about initial training. Do you see from your segment the training? Do you have to come up with some bridging courses, something new? Is there a new segment arising training, or do you think we can continue as is?
There's one thing is compliance, and the other thing is quality of engineers, and it depends actually on the customer. Some of the customers are looking only for compliance. So, as Anita said, it's a show certificate and it complies if it's okay. The other more mature customers are actually asking for additional competence training because they see that some of their staff are lacking knowledge and experience in some parts. And these, I would call those bridging courses. To meet the actual demand that is required on the job. So I think this would be considered as bridging courses until regulator is going to update its syllabus and requirement.
Yeah, for the initial.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically driven by the industry, the operators, the airlines.
Yes.
Is what you're basically acting on behalf of. Which Henrik, is it past the microphone? Yep. Thank you, Jonas. From your end, do you think you have SAS got his own 147 training? Do you think you will be capable of conducting all the training in-house, or will you be more reliable on in the future, like transition phase, on the big players in the market for training?
I would say a 50-50 split there. Well, we use a lot of training from the TC holders and of course outside, but the 147 in SAS, I'm not responsible for that part, but those are major players in terms of training on the newer models of aircraft. But as of what we get, from the TC holders is that we need to have a 50-50 split. So We are sending actual people down to Toulouse for training for the different systems, and of course for the FOMAC system.
Good. From your side, do you see any greater cooperations or collaborations between the MROs and the airline to kind of bridge into the next? Or because from your side, I would assume that the MROs being prepared for the next generation aircraft will also be on your benefit.
Yeah, of course. I buy the maintenance, and I need to secure that. First of all, compliance is number one, safety. But then again, we need competent people to work in our aircraft. So that's a win-win situation. And of course, we are in that process that we are looking into a possible cooperation going forward, especially with new aircraft.
Enrique, from your side?
It's difficult to make a strategy when you don't really know exactly what will happen in a few years. I think in line with what I said before, I think the point is to integrate training and working in the same company. Call it 147, call it whatever you want. Could be one separate approval, can be the same. But I bet the point is to provide training while you are working. How to organize this? As of today, it's not possible because you need two separate approvals. You have to go for different certificates, and to integrate this is almost impossible. The regulators don't always allow you to use the same people to train you to work. I guess this has to change. In my opinion, this has to change. You have to get, when you get your 145 approval, you have to show to the regulators, to everybody, that you are able to train people while they are working. And that training program will be integrated in the work. So this will be another task of the department organization. There will be no separation. Will it be in 10 years or in 20 years? I don't know. In my opinion, the way it should go.
Yeah, thank you. Carolus, anything you want to add?
Just so bridging competences, we already noted that already. So we see the market is not able to provide us what we need, so we do in-house training. And whatever we see that we need our people to be competent of, we do in-house. So we create programs, we employ trainers, and we just solve the problems ourselves. Going forward in the future, this is exactly what will happen. So we will see what's going to hit us. We prepare for that.
So basically the same strategy for the future as has been.
Yeah, as we already are implementing now.
Yeah, good, thank you. Anything you gentlemen want to add before we open up for questions? Is there any questions?
Actually, there was an interesting statement from Karolis that said that when you attract the personnel, it's not to try, but to achieve something, right? And how do you measure that? What it means for them to achieve for your potential employees, like career growth, or some achievements, or wage growth? What is that?
Okay, so if you would come today to my presentation, I'm sure you will see that. But to answer it right now, so we look at the person, there is a type of person you are looking for. So type A is the person who will drive others. Type B, which will do whatever he's asked to do, and that's it. And type C, who just float around. So we shifted to type A, so those who are driving force for others. Now, what they will achieve, so if we get that type of person, he will achieve and generate for the organization much more than the one who is actually just doing the work. Maybe he will not stay for a long period of time, but his input into the growth of organization is very valuable. Another thing what he will get being with us is that his input will always be valued and appreciated. So it's very, very personal things, which actually is not like a technical figure. So, hope that answers.
Yeah,
But still you can come to the presentation.
Okay, and maybe just one more small question, more about mechanics and the force you have. Do you have some kind of understanding what category of mechanics, like structure engineers or how they call it, avionics, are in lack, in deficit overall in your industry, in your companies. Like, for example, you have lack of structure engineers.
Yeah, if we go back to the 1.45 that we have internal, it's definitely sheet skill. That's we are in lack of, and it's sheet skill. It's its own trade in one way. It's difficult to retrieve people, get people in that segment. So that's definitely something we are looking at every single day. That we have aircraft grounded due to lack of sheet skill. So that's and that's money pouring out. So definitely a challenge. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
The question is regarding training and motivation. For mechanics especially, I think that training is demotivation because they don't want to train, they want to work extra hours maybe, and sometimes they can see the training like a waste of time or not.
Well, as I have the microphone, I'll answer myself. I partially agree with you. For some mechanics, training is just a burden that they have to do after their work hours or during their work hours, and it's something that they feel they are not supposed to do because they are there just to sign off maintenance and do something on the aircraft. Yes, that happens. That happens when training is separated from the daily work. If part of your daily work is learning, you learn without noticing it. So when I was talking about integrating training in the daily work, it's not doing separate things. It's that provide the written procedures and the processes that allow people to learn without them noticing it. It's not easy, probably, it's difficult, but that's the ideal outcome of the situation. When you will not need a training session every 2 years or every month or every second week. So that everything that you need, you will learn. How you achieve this? Well, you have to somehow restructure your staff and get your people to train others and receive also training from others. And how to get this? Of course, this will not be tomorrow, but all the processes have to be adapted from now till the end. So to answer your question, yes, some people see training as an extra workload because training is organized as an extra workload. So if you go and address the root cause, you probably find out that the solution will come. Hope I answered. I don't see you very convinced. I don't see you at all. You don't like here.
Good. Any more questions? Then I will round off with just say thank you to everybody for attending, and we shall give the panelists an applause and thank them for. Thank you.
Hello again, I can see some new faces joining, so we'll just continue with our panel. And I would like to introduce our next speaker, the head of cargo obligations and training projects at IATA, Mr. Kim Kyang-Hui. Kim has over 17 years of experience in aviation, oil and gas industries. Since joining IATA in 2008, he has been in various roles, including developing new products and services, leading innovation programs, and driving new businesses. Since 2014, he has been managing the training team in the airport passenger, cargo, and security division, in addition to leading the development of the product portfolio strategy, driving investment decisions, and partnership opportunities. Kim will be here to talk about the importance of industry certification for training, greater recognition for employees and organizations. Please welcome Kim.
Hi, good morning. So the room is slightly less busy now, but we'll make do. So just to really start off, I actually wanted to go through a short introduction about IATA and what we do. We were founded in 1945, and our sort of mission is really to lead, represent, and serve the aviation industry, the airline industry, and we represent over 290 airlines that account for 82% of global passenger traffic. So, as an organization, the next 3 slides really just explain in summary what we do. So, one of the first things that we do is we set standards for the industry. So, in terms of having the industry work better together, we actually set global standards for the airline industry. We also provide services as part of what we do in terms of setting standards. So training, which is one area that I'm responsible for, and as well as the standards that are published in some of our regular manuals. These are areas that we actually look to provide services to the industry. And finally, actually, one of the most important things that we do is we advocate on behalf and for the industry with regulators and other entities and important stakeholders for the air transport industry. So one of the main challenges that the industry faces is really going to be related to manpower and resources. As what we are seeing is in the next 20 years, we're going to actually see the demand for air travel actually double to 7.8 million, and this we're looking at a 20-year time frame. So it's significantly large. So how do you actually address the challenges that the industry is going to face when it comes to resources and also infrastructure? So our Director General actually most recently at an event actually talked about the fact that there are many challenges, and I think one of the things that we are looking at and working with the industry on is really how do we actually recruit, develop, but also retain skilled staff, and that's one of the areas that we are looking to see how we can actually improve. And today's topic, which I'm really going to talk about on certification, really focuses on not so much on the pilots, but more around ground staff and other employees within the industry, and how we actually retain, develop them, and most also importantly, how do we attract young people to actually make air transport a career choice, with the likes of technology companies being big employers as well, more attractive employers. How do we actually make this industry more attractive? So a recent survey that we also conducted, at least with LinkedIn conducted, was 94% of employees would actually stay in a company longer if the companies were willing to invest in career development. And that's a very important thing, at least statistic to note. that companies can't just recruit an employee and then hope that they will stay on the basis of goodwill. I think there needs to be career development and constant career development, I think, in furthering the employee and actually keeping them motivated and staying. So we realized that organizations are challenged with this need to ensure that employees retain the knowledge that they have gained in training, but also the skills to continually perform in their role and function. One thing that we actually want is to encourage is continuous learning, being a key component of an organizational success is what we've seen. Also, workplace learning is actually very critical in about improving the performance of your employees, which we feel that's something that we can actually help the industry with. So all in all, really why we see what we're doing and in certification is really how we actually bring it forward to help organizations really achieve three things. Very simply, what we see in sort of certification, it really helps in compliance. That's one area that there are a lot of standards and regulations in the industry, and we want to actually encourage compliance. More on the safety aspects. Then also, how do you actually go beyond what you have with regards to compliance and actually focus on excellence and quality. So that's areas where we also see that certification actually helps you demonstrate that there's a quality element to the training that you provide as an organization. And then finally, also all of these actually help in increasing the profitability for an organization. So a couple of months ago, we sort of looked into developing what we've termed as a Center of Excellence for Training. This is something that we actually are working with the industry on, really in terms of standardizing really the standards on operational training. This is really to help everyone in the industry, at least airlines, not only the airline members that we have, but also the greater air transport industry stakeholders, just really achieve a greater level of standards when it comes to offering operational training to their staff. So by doing so, we actually raise the overall standard of training that exists within the industry, and in doing so actually help the industry attract and also retain staff. So the objectives of the certification program that we're working on really in terms, sorry for the color, it's supposed to be red, I'm not sure why it's flickering. To establish, actually, as I said, maintain high standards of training for the industry. We also are working with the industry really because what's important, and this is what we've seen also in pilot training that is progressively being sort of introduced into other aspects. I think the next speaker that will speak on dangerous goods training will actually mention a little bit about this, which is really on competency-based training, and which is frameworks which are definitely really going to be impacting more and more of the various employees that the industry employs. We also actually want to be able to elevate the competency and capacity of employees within the industry. And finally, I think first and foremost, the industry is all about safety, and it's a very important priority of the industry, and that's something that we really want to try to elevate as well. So, as I mentioned, all of this all the past few slides I've gone through really lead into this program that we have since launched. It's a Center of Excellence for Training in terms of a validation program that we have introduced to the industry and helped to, in doing so, this program actually helps bring greater recognition to all organizations within the air transport industry, airlines and the likes. Really, where we look at, we come actually help and work with our industry members, really in helping elevate operational training in terms of the standards in delivery as well as in quality. So this is something that we believe strongly in. partly because we wanted to have the industry be recognized for being a purveyor of excellent, high quality training. Not that anyone can actually offer training to the air transport industry, but there are a lot of entities there which offer good training, but there's no industry-wide recognition for what they do. So a ground handler could say we offer training that is according to the industry standards. But beside them claiming that they offer this training in accordance to standards, there is no sort of global recognition which they have. So that's one thing that we wanted to do. In doing so, actually helping to also generate a greater awareness that they have a higher quality seal, but also in the sense provide their employees with greater recognition from the outside. Although it can have added benefit to the employee, where the employee actually becomes more mobile, but ultimately for the industry as a whole, by increasing mobility within the industry, we still get to retain skilled workforce within the industry, even if they move from company to company. So, as I said, the certification that we were looking at focuses beyond not the scope of pilots and crew, but more specifically related to through the ground activities. So we are offering this certification to our airline members, but also the greater wider air transport industry. And we are currently focusing the scope on really ground-related activities pertaining to cargo, air freight activities, as well as passenger handling and ground operations. Because we believe that this area is where attrition is very high, and we can actually help organizations retain their employees within their organizations themselves, but also within the wider industry. So this is a bit of a long slide, so I'm not really going to go through too many of the benefits which I've actually extolled over the course of my presentation. One of the things that we offer really is a global recognition, which is something that we wanted to provide, where we saw that there are bodies which were already offering sort of recognition, but IATA as a whole wasn't actually taking on this role to recognize what the value that the industry brings when it comes to training staff. So that's why the certification program was launched, in providing greater recognition to entities within our industry. But also, I think one of the first and foremost, really, besides focusing on the organization, we also wanted to focus on the employees and ultimately keeping them within the industry. So greater recognition for the company, but also greater recognition for keeping and retaining skilled staff. So this actually helps, we believe this would actually help organizations increase their sort of brand recognition and reputation with employees or new joiners within the industry, but also employees that are moving from one organization to the next. So finally, really the benefits of what we are doing for certification is really very first and foremost, the ultimate aim was really to improve safety and efficiency of training within the industry as a whole. But I think one of the things as well we wanted to help organizations with was navigating the challenges that are being faced with the progressive introduction of competency-based training frameworks. Is an area where some organizations face challenges, and we actually believe that it can actually help bring the experience as an industry sort of I would say standard bearer to bring that bring our knowledge and experience to help organizations actually achieve better training. And finally, I think one of the things is this sort of global recognition actually ultimately helps the industry prove to the external world that the industry actually cares a lot for its employees, but most importantly, we are really interested in attracting, retaining, and developing employees within the industry. So that's it for my presentation. I'm open for any questions if anyone has any questions for me.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Kim? Well then, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back from the lunch break. We will continue with our panel discussions. And the next presenter is the previously already introduced compliance monitoring manager at Swiftair, Mr. Enrique Paredes Garcia-Martin. He has years of experience in various aviation fields and is a specialist in quality systems, delivery and redelivery of aircraft, asset management, aviation-related training, and even a bigger number of aviation-related fields. Today he's going to talk about learning from experienced technicians and mixing the trainer and trainee roles.
Okay, thank you for your introduction. Well, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for coming after what the organizers call networking break, which is the polite way of having a lunch break. I know this is a very complicated time. You might be tired and coffee maybe has not done yet the effect. But well, in the next couple of hours we will talk about this fantastic subject about training, learning, and on-the-job training and all these things. It might not be a couple of hours, if I'm not wrong. It's a couple of minutes. It will be a short presentation anyway. In fact, I'm going to talk about personal frustration. So I'm going to talk about my feelings. Many of you probably work in the human resources, recruiting areas. And you might ask why a quality guy is talking about recruiting and why a quality guy is talking about learning. We quality are supposed to do audits and check everything that is bad and tell the boss so that they can take action. We do this and we also provide solutions for big problems in the company. Or at least that's what we like to think that we do. So in this case, I'm going to explain one example that we did in Swiftair to address one of the main problems that we found when recruiting new technicians. There are two ways of recruiting technicians in Swiftair. One of them is taking experienced people from manpower companies. They come and the next day they can start to work. They can start to certify maintenance, which is a big thing that we are interested in. And the second part is to take young talents, to look for young talents, and try to keep them in the company. Looking for young talents is very easy. The key point is young. So you pick up young people, you don't know them, you see their CV, their resume, you see their results at school, and you more or less have an idea whether they are talented or not. You have a 15 minutes interview with them, and you see, and you like them or not. If you like them, you take them. If you don't, just thank them for their coming to the interview, and they are just sent out. Well, what can we do with those people that we actually hire from the very beginning without any experience? Ideally, we say we are going to train them. Fantastic. But then we face a problem. At least Swiftair is not a school. Swiftair are not professional trainers. We have professionals, we have technicians, we have mechanics. So we find ourselves every year with 8 to 10 students coming to our facilities with the great illusion of learning a lot of things. And on the other hand, we have a lot of professionals that sometimes believe that having those people around is a waste of time. So when you have a situation and you hear your professionals, your all very experienced guys saying, hey, yes, you bring us the future, as you say, but we are wasting our time because we are here to make maintenance, to sign off maintenance, to release the aircraft, and we have to train those people. Should be someone else doing this. And that's a frustration. That's my frustration. Having experienced people saying that training other people is a waste of time. If we were medicine doctors, we would have this Hippocratic oath saying that we commit ourselves to teach the youngers. But mechanics do not have these kind of things. So for them, and it's true, they see it as a waste of time. So we find ourselves saying, okay, what can we do? We need those people for the future, and we have our people that are supposed to teach them, to show them everything they know, that they don't want. First, because it's a waste of time, as I said. Second, because some of them say, you want those people that are cheaper to take my position and send me away, which is not the case. So we have to fight against all this. And a couple of years before, we found a little solution. It was just an idea that we wanted to implement just to see if it worked. So we said, okay, as the selection of these trainees is done by the Human Resources Department with Training Department, which is myself, and I'm also Quality Department, let's try to find quality procedures to use those people in the advantage of the company. So maybe from a human resources point of view can be considered as confusing because we are probably putting more responsibility on the students than they are supposed to have. But on the other hand, it showed that the results were good. And I'm going to explain this thing we did. And then you can ask and give me your opinion as professionals of the selection. We have to have those people with the experienced people. That's a must. They have to work and they have to learn. Our people are not teachers, so they don't want to teach. They don't want to waste time to sit down with the people and showing them, look, this is done like this is done like that. But in any case, they have to do and they have to learn. So we decided to send our students with their shift leaders, with their colleagues, to any task that was assigned to them. With one condition. They had to listen to everything, take notes of everything, don't ask anything, and write down everything they did. That was kind of a burden. Normally a mechanic is not supposed to write down everything he does, but they were students, so they were allowed some freedom to take notes. They were seen as just poor students. They don't know words. So, well, let's allow them to write. So they started to write down everything they saw. And the condition was not to ask anything to the technicians, just to listen and to note down. When they finished doing this for a few days, several times, if the task was repeated, they were prompted to write down again everything. They were asked to compare what they have written down with the manuals. This is learning. This is studying the manuals. This is nothing strange to a student. So they did. And they found differences. They found differences. Okay, next step. Once you have detected some differences, that means procedures that are implemented in the practical day differently to what the manuals say, then we have to be sure if they were right or wrong. So the next step was to take note of those differences, and next time they did the same task, ask the technicians whether they should do that or something different, without giving them any detail of the difference itself. So they did. And what we found is that our technicians, very experienced, not always follow the procedures. Deviation, that's too bad. But how come quality audits had not detected it before? As a quality auditor, I was frustrated again. My auditors and myself hadn't seen that during our audits. How come? Well, it's easy. When you do an audit, the technician knows that someone is looking at them, and they do properly, following the manuals, following the procedures. Following the procedures is what they should do, it's what they must do. But sometimes, some things, some details are found not interesting, stupid, doing the audits, when you say, I'm auditing you next week, they are prepared. They know exactly what they have to do. The only thing is that they don't. So when you tell them that you are going to audit them, they prepare themselves and everything is perfect. So you never detect. Finally, we used those students to detect what an audit cannot detect. And they found, in a very nice way, there was no pressure, there was no inspector going around, there was no angry people, there were no findings, non-conformities. So finally, when those students asked our technicians, hey, why don't you, for example, when you are changing a wheel, why don't you put a line, a stripe to define the working area? This is not needed. Everybody knows that I'm changing the wheel. It's not so many people there. Okay? The manual says that you have to do it. Well, but the manual says lots of things that are not necessary. Another thing, when changing wheels, very simple task. Many technicians do many times, many years. Why do you use paper cloth to wipe out the grease, the old grease, instead of a cotton cloth? It's the same. Well, it's the same. Yeah, the result might be the same, but the manual says to use a cotton cloth. Well, but you know, the manual sometimes says things that are not necessary. Okay. So all the students took notes of everything and then went to quality department and said, this is what I found. Okay, good. So we took all the differences, all the bad practices, and we issued internal communications, bulletins, panels, advising our technicians, anonymously, of good practices and advising them to change some procedures. And of course, none of them knew why this came from and where this came from. Until we went to the last step. The last step was to write a document, a training document, which was actually written by the students with all the differences, all what the manual said, and all the good practices that have to be implemented to avoid all the problems. These training documents were approved internally and were used in the refresher trainings. And of course, the name of the students was there written because they had prepared that. And then the technician said, hey, but this is a student. Is the student telling me what I have to do? And I said, yes, because you were telling him wrong things. So finally, we made the student teaching the old experienced person. This had a very good result that is still today. First of all the old people in the company know that everybody might be watching them without any threat, without any problem. There are no names, so nobody knows who was doing what wrong. But they know that someone is watching, and they know that this someone reports to the quality department. So what they do now is when they detect all the bad procedures, they are the first reporting them to SMS department, to quality department, or to their chief leaders. So finally we have set up, without wanting it properly, a very good tool to detect defects that are normally hidden, that cannot be detected during regular audits. And we have people having better conscience on the good practices in maintenance. We started with very simple tasks, and now we do every time. So every student that comes goes to work with one condition: take notes of everything. Now when people see the students taking notes, they are the first telling them, okay, no, we have to follow the procedures and learn to do this the proper way. Once you have learned from the very beginning to use the good procedure, then it's natural for you to use it, to implement it. And this is what we have found. Maybe when we are selecting people in an interview, we don't tell them that they will do this. Maybe they don't expect to be used as quality auditors sometimes, or quality inspectors. But actually, it's something that does not harm the person, is not outside their scope of work. They are studying, they have to learn, and they have to take conscience of the good practices. And there is some something that the rest of the company has appreciated at the end because it has made them to use better practices than before. So that's our example. There are some other examples, but today we have probably no time enough to talk about them. But this is a little bit the way Swifter is taking care of their students. That's what I spoke about in the panel this morning when I talked about integrating the training into the daily work. It's not doing training sessions, it's using our own staff, all the staff, to teach other people, whether they are experienced or not. Finally, we found that unexperienced people can absolutely teach other people how to behave, how to work. And this for us was a very good tool. So this was what I wanted to show to you. This is what I wanted to present. And now I'm ready to get any comments that you may have, any suggestions or any opinions.
Does anyone have any questions or would like to comment on what Mr. Paredes just said?
You started off with a bit of a description that the more experienced workforce wasn't interested in mentoring or teaching the new workforce. Do you see that culture having shifted at all after this training experiment?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now they don't see it as a waste of time. In the very beginning, they saw it as a threat. So people are watching me, I'm under pressure. But actually, when you're working, you are under pressure. Someone is watching you because you are supposed to do things right. In the very beginning, it was a threat. Now they have included this into the behavior. So for them, it's not teaching the others anymore, but they do. It's just telling the good practices. When actually, an on-the-job training means that someone with experience tells you what to do. So now, this what is the good practice, and before it was a bad practice. So this is a big change, and now they don't see it as a threat, it's normal. They have to teach the good things, otherwise something that is different to the manual will go to the company and then it will come back. And there will be a finding, or there will be a training session, a standard training session, and this is a waste of time. So they say, no, I prefer to do it right from the very beginning and not wasting time in having to read and sign one internal communication saying that when you are changing a way, you have to do this and this. So finally, now they don't see it as teaching, but they actually do. So for us, it's much better.
Do we have anyone else? Well, thank you then, Mr. Paredes. fully heavy maintenance facility with over 250 staff members. Today he's here with a standalone presentation on winning the desired employees camp story. Please welcome Mr. Karolis Čepukas.
Thank you. Hello everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm usually presenting some of the presentations to my staff, which is 200 people sitting. So now I feel like really comfortable because of a far less group, which is fine. So what I want to tell you, first of all, is a short story about camps. Those who don't know, it's a heavy maintenance facility operating Ryanair 737NG fleet. So we have a long history of operations already, and I will try to tell you some bits of information. Why so much people are now willing and are eager to join us and to work for us. So to provide you some small context, I can tell you that CAMS was established in 2012. So before that, in 2008, Ryanair decided to establish their base in Kaunas Airport. And part of the deal was that they will also build a heavy maintenance facility. In 2012, we started operations. We have 45 people working for us, 83 aircraft checks completed. That showed the airline that yes, we can. That made us the second step, increase, which allowed us to build another facility, and which allowed to service two 737NG aircraft at the same time. I will also slightly inform you about the educational and competition, what we have. It's also about that, how difficult it is actually to find people. It was, now it's better. And later on, the last part, and probably the newest one, is how we actually created the CAMS image and transformed our, let's say, image in the eyes of the employers, in the employees. So we have 20 minutes, so let's get started, right? So the beginning, as already mentioned, we started in 2012 with servicing 83 aircraft. We built the second facility in 2013, and currently we already have, starting the 8th year of operations, we have completed 700 aircraft checks for Ryanair fleet, and we have more than 200 aviation specialists working for us at the moment. We see a huge issue going forward that there is a huge demand for aircraft specialists, and we've seen that in our own, let's say, eyes. And we decided that we need some changes. The shortage is obviously demolishing the industry, and you can whether accept it or you can make some decisions how you will go forward. So current situation is that there is aviation students usually spend 5 years working in air maintenance and repair organization. After that, they receive the license. There is a quite significant time frame to achieve that. So you whether can accept it or try to change that. So we tried, people say if you don't like the situation, whether you change the situation or you change the approach to it. So we decided that we will go ahead and fight that. So we implemented our own training programs, and one of these was from Zero to Hero program. And that was a video coverage which invited future engineers to join our company. So I'll show you a small, short video about that. Įprastai inžinierių tampama per 5 metus. Žmogus galima tapti inžinieriu, jis turi išlaikyti labai daug modulių egzaminų, turi investuoti pinigų, turi investuoti savo laiko, kas užtrunka kokius 2-3 metus. Ką siūlome mes, tai mes siūlome labai greitą ir suspaustą tokį modulį, kur per 7 mėnesius mes padengiam visas reikalingas dalis jau 3-4 metų patirtį turintiems mechanikams. So basically, this allowed us to attract a lot of future engineers into our company, and going forward you will know more about that. So now I would like to come back to the topic, competition when hangars are close by. So we know that the demand for aviation specialists is huge. We have a lot of companies around Lithuania even, and you know, each company offers pretty much the same. So they offer a good wage, good roster, probably some health insurance, life insurance, additional benefits, maybe some days off. So how actually you make the person to choose counts? So that's how actually we decided that we want to be IMCOMS and created our own image, which would probably tell more of who we are. And if people outside will see who we are, probably they will join us. So the main idea was that the COMS image was created by employees, by ourselves, and going to the outside of the organization, also staying inside. COMS actually was made from each of the person, and we decided that we will create an image and promote the culture where a person is valued, where a person is needed, and he knows that he sees that his input, his everyday work is very important, and everyday job allows the organization to expand, to grow, and to flourish together with the employee. Apart from that, we accepted that each individual is very important to the organization, and his effort is just really valued. Instead, apart from that, we take it as the image states that we are valuing our people and they are growing together with the company. We're also trying to show them what kind of organization we are actually. Do we have, and the purpose was to show that in COMS you will find like-minded people, the same interests, the same hobbies. You can share your, let's say, ideas, and you will all share not only professional life but also personal life. So usually people are quite anxious about the company, whether they will fit in. So we wanted to show that you will definitely fit in, because we have motorcycles with us, you know, those people who like driving motorcycles. We have basketball players, so if you like basketball, you'll be comfortable with us. If you like rally, you like cars, you'll be comfortable with us. So, apart from that, we wanted to share the stories about the colleagues. So, and the decision was that each of us have what to say. We have really some fascinating people working for us. So we decided that we will take it and broadcast it outside, actually. So the entirely communication was created by us, by our own, and we wanted actually to demonstrate that the inside of the company, which is somewhat crazy sometimes, but also that it will accept you as you are, because we accept each individual. We used different channels for that, and basically before that we didn't even have some social networks, which later on were developed. So going forward, I would like to tell you where actually the story was told. So first of all, in 2018 January, we established Instagram. Before that, we didn't have it. Our communication in these channels were very minimal. Both in all the channels, we started sharing the stories, sharing the pictures, and telling the IMCOMS story. After that, the interviews followed, because each month we interviewed one of the colleagues, and the interviews went, also was catched by the media. We didn't buy any media, it just, they took that as a good, good pack of information. So they broadcasted it in the most popular websites, in the most popular portals. So the stories, that's just an examples of the stories. So usually you get a couple of pictures and the story of the person. How is he fascinated about aviation? What was his story? How did he end up in camps? And why does he love working with it for us? Apart from that, we also had some video stories, which I would also like to show you one.
Aviacija susižavėjau vidurinėje mokykloje. Pirmiausia, tai buvo tiesiog susižavėjimas ir noras pamatyti Žemę, kaip atrodo iš viršaus. Pradėjau studijuoti aviacijos mechanikos inžineriją VGTU. Pirmoji mano praktika buvo prie mažų lėktuvų. Tada supratau, kad man tikrai patinka tai, ką aš darau. Ir tų stereotipų, kad tai moteriškas ar vyriškas darbas, jie tiesiog išnyko, mano galvoje jų nebeliko, nes man tiesiog patiko tai, ką aš darau. Įsidarbinus Kamse viskas labai skiriasi nuo mažosios aviacijos, nuo mažų lėktuvų. Viskas buvo nauja, todėl reikėjo labai daug žinių, kurias man suteikė vyresniai mechanikai, inžinieriai. Tam, kad tapčiau orlaivių inžinierė, man reikia 5 metų patirties ir 13 modulių. Kamse dirbau 2,5 metų, todėl tikiuosi, kad per artimiausius 3 metus išsilaikysiu visus būtiniausius modulius, gausiu tipo sertifikatą, kad galiu tvarkyti Boeing 737 lėktuvus ir tikiuosi, kad 3 metų laikotarpyje prasidės mano kaip orlaivių inžinierės kelias.
That was one of the stories of our lead mechanic who is on the way, on the path to becoming an engineer. Apart from that, we also wanted to show that we have really a good vibe within the organization. So actually, some stories are just becoming spontaneously. So if that's our line maintenance and workshop manager coming with a doll which was gifted to him. If you are away, so this doll will take care about all the jobs in here. So variety of information is actually being outsourced from ourselves and created by ourselves. So I guess the culture comes actually from, you cannot buy it, you cannot create it, you cannot, you cannot, magicians probably can, we cannot. So we need to show what actually you will find. The companies might make a mistake because if you will present outside what you are and person will come to you to work and you will not find that, it's really not a good idea. So we try to show who we are and what we do without any marketing tricks. So the stories were really catchy. We got that. We were happy that these were taken by the biggest portals and some really, really interesting people sharing their stories. Going forward, we don't sit and do nothing. So there is new initiatives. Currently, we have a new initiative called From Cool Kid to Cool Pro. That's how it's called. So the basic idea is to find the person who actually was previously involved in aviation and has some kind of proof about that, like a picture of him and airplane. And then we post also a second picture of currently where he is and what he does. So what our HR recently gets is always the question, when can I tell my story? And that's really, we see the engagement grew much more than we've expected. The problem was we lack people, and the achievement out of all what we've already implemented was that our internal staff was really engaged in this. They suggest us what we should do next. So it's up to us whether we will approve it or not. But really good ideas come to us. Before the beginning of From Zero to Hero course, so the course which covered all the modules and guided the way to becoming an engineer, we were lacking 15 engineers. As of today, we have more than 26 already engineers in the pipeline to become a B1 or B2 engineer this year only. So we are quite secured our future with engineers going forward. Before start of IM camps, we were lacking 50 mechanics. We have a joke, if we would expand, we could I would say make a day for another 100 people whose CVs are currently in the waiting list to join our company. High social media indicators. So our posts in Facebook and Instagram reaches 9-10% engagement rate. When Facebook's recommendation, or obviously usually is only 2-3%. So that's basically very good. Speaking only about that we do it ourselves. So that was a short story about CAMS. I invite you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And I can promise you that it will not be boring, the same as working for us. So, and if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. That was very entertaining. Do we have any questions for Mr. Carlos? Any comments as well? Thank you very much, Stan.
Thank you very much.
She's currently leading the HR department at Baltic Ground Services Group, a provider of ground handling, aircraft fueling, catering, liquid ADR logistics, training services, and IT solutions. Laura had been leading HR division of Baltic Ground Services since 2012 and became head of HR of BGS Group in 2018. Today, Laura is going to present a topic on corporate culture that creates value for clients and how do they do that. Please welcome Laura Gutkiene.
Hello, my name is Laura Buitkuvene from Baltic Ground Services, and I am here to share with you our success story, how we have created corporate culture that benefits our clients. At the beginning, let me show you a short video that illustrates our team's everyday life today. However, that was not like this all the time. What was the situation before? 3 years ago, we had 5 corporate values that were nothing more than a declaration on our website, and rarely could who name them. We had low employee engagement rate and a high staff turnover rate. So those things were well connected. So we had problems to solve. What was our beginning? First, we approached values. For a company with more than 800 employees with very different background and occupations, from drivers, aircraft cleaners, to ramp agents and managers, values are very important. They are like a compass, helping us to follow our strategic course every day. Instead of discussing values in small, close circle of top management, HRs, and consultants, we invited people from very different departments to join us. The decision to involve different employees, regardless of his or her title of organization, of their status, was beneficial. People became really engaged. We have audited our existing values, discussed and agreed which behavior examples are good, which are bad. During this process, 3 main values emerged. I care about it, I can do more, and I know what I'm doing. So go to our second step, about leadership. When building a corporate culture, management and employees have to work as a team. Employees should be invited to participate in a decision making, especially when it relates to issues that could impact the culture or workplace norms of an organization. Perhaps the most important thing to recognize is that building a strong corporate culture begins at the top. If management and the senior leadership don't buy into the values to change their attitude, so why should employees? So we have started with development leadership skills of our managers, and we still do it. Also, we work very intensively with management attitude toward their employees. When there is trust, people tend to not only do their work according to the rules, but they strive to do more and look for new solutions. Last but not least, the management should become easily and simply approachable. This is when people will be more comfortable to ask for their help, guidance, advice, and feel more important. about traditions. Corporate culture is not a one-time project. It has to be alive, so it's necessary to support foster it. We have quarterly rewards for the people from every department who stand out with a value fostering behavior. Approximately 20 employees get awarded every 3 months. Every Friday, we have a tradition shared breakfast prepared by a different department for other employees every week. And in the end, managers preparing breakfast for all employees. Our one more tradition is a day with a colleague initiative. In order to improve cooperation between departments and increase perception about other work, we started organizing day with a colleague initiative. People spend their day working together with colleagues from another department. I had worked with aircraft cleaners during the night shift cleaning airplane cables. So far it was most of successful our projects. In fact, we already have some cases when employees rotated to the new position they have experienced during a day with a colleague initiative. But we encourage to people think about their own traditions with dedicating budget for it, and it works. Colleagues better know what is more suitable for them. And what was our last step? About personal values and qualities. While we can train professional competencies, we can barely change personal values and qualities. So we started paying more attention to the personal qualities of our candidates and how we match with our corporate culture and values. We try to introduce them to our corporate culture right from the first contact by warmly greeting and casual conversation, so they could not only know it but feel it. We have to make sure we hire individuals who are not only talented but should also be willing to accept and foster our corporate culture and values. And of course, the most important thing is result. It took us 3 years to implement all these steps, and we are not done yet. As I mentioned, corporate culture has to be alive. So it's a constant process for monitoring and improving. But we already bearing fruits from our corporate culture. The employee engagement increased by 30%. Our employees recommended as an employer, and about 30% of recommended newcomers in 2019 became our new colleagues. Half of our managers grew inside the company. For example, our CEO started in a company as a driver. Our other 2 heads, from handling head and commercial head, joined the company as luggage loader. Moreover, these changes also changed the strategic attitude toward corporate culture. It became incorporated in our strategic guidelines. In our daily meetings, besides routine topics such as everyday operations, we also talk about attention to employees, cooperation between departments, and how could we improve it. And when you have engaged, enabled, and confident employees who believe and follow company values, client satisfaction increases. So this is feedback from our clients. And in the end, I would like to mention that in all pictures you saw our team and our employees. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Would anyone like to ask anything?
Maybe just a small question. Yeah, hello, thank you. It was very nice to hear. Very nice to hear you sharing, frankly speaking. I just want to ask, was it, did you talk about the Vilnius airport or about the network, or, I mean, figures about recommendations, 30%, and so is it network
trying to involve all employees. Of course, at the beginning, it was not so